Excited. It's me, it's Eileen, and I get to be in conversation with you and lead the conversation today and share a little bit about the chapter that I wrote as part of the collective Great Leadership Awakening Summit or book, and now in the summit. And I'm going to jump in. This is a bit of an interactive session. So as we go through the next 45 minutes, I may ask you to put a couple of things in the chat. I'd love for us to be able to go through an exercise that I actually have in my chapter and just hear some of your thoughts. This is the first time I've ever written a chapter in a book that didn't have some sort of research associated with it. I guess the research is my life. So give me a little bit of leeway. I may get a little emotional along the way, but I'm so excited to have people that I care about and will care about on the call. So my chapter is titled Strengths, Diamonds, Aphorisms, and Amelia, on Me, Myself, and I. And I start the chapter, the whole chapter is focused around the aphorism, which was written by a very well-known Jewish scholar, Rabbi Hillel. And I chose it because it's something that's resonated and informed me for really over 50 years and continues to compel me to be in these sort of continual stages of awakening and to hold myself to those awakenings, to what I'm discovering. So what a better frame for me to write about my leadership awakening than to write it in a way that will hold me accountable as I'm sharing it publicly to that which I'm discovering and continue to discover. One of the things that you'll hear me when I'm talking about the shape of the diamond or the strengths of the mindset is that I'm going to spend a bit of time on Amelia Bedelia, my beautiful, sweet Amelia Bedelia, who really, between the strength and the diamond and Amelia, not just form the construct for my chapter, but have really given me some great construct for my leadering, my herring, my being, just me. So as we go through, and we'll take about another 45 minutes, I invite you to come in and to challenge yourself to think about, if I am not for myself, who will be for me? And if I'm only for myself, what am I? And if not now, when? I must admit that at the authors' party last Friday, when many of the authors got together and we shared a little bit about our chapter, and we were handed our book by Kaylee O'Keefe, who is our publisher, our friend, our guide, our mentor, on the call right now. When I got up there, I don't know, maybe it was the champagne, who knows, but I kind of broke out into the childhood song that I had learned when I first heard of this aphorism. If I'm not for myself, who will be for me? If I'm only for myself, what am I? And if not now, when? For the good or the bad, I will not be singing it, because if I sung it badly, I would then be completely thrown off for the rest of the 40 minutes. But I will share that if you connect with me at any other time, I am happy to sing you the little verses of the Hillel probes and aphorism. So let's start. I'm going to start with the first part. If I am not for myself, who will be for me? My college experience began with a contract between my parents and me. Although I was not Ivy League qualified, I had gotten into a couple of really great universities. Although truth be told, I had hidden my acceptances, although my mother was smart enough to realize that I'd hidden my acceptances. Why? Well, my choice of the school I wanted to go to was based on where my boyfriend could go. And he was going to be attending state, which was not necessarily my parents' first choice for me. So we made a contract. I said to my parents that I would attend state college for 2 years and then transfer to a better school. And the reason that they had wanted me to transfer to this better school is because they wanted me to have the best opportunities that could be afforded to me, and therefore wanted on my resume for me to graduate from a bit more prestigious academic school with a better pedigree. When I would give my resume to people, they thought to graduate from from a school that was a little bit more difficult to get into and that would be a bit more prestigious would make a bit more sense. Let me digress for a bit. Growing up, my nickname amongst my immediate and actually extended family was Miss Malaprop. The character, if you haven't heard of Ms. Malaprop, it's actually Mrs. Malaprop is the character. And it's a funny aunt who gets mixed up in the schemes and dreams of these young lovers in a comedy from 1775 called The Rivals. And one of the funniest aspects of Miss Malaprop's character is that she often uses an incorrect word to express herself, which gives way to the word malapropism. And a malapropism is the mistaken use of an incorrect word in place of a word with a similar sound. And it results in sort of this nonsensical, sometimes humorous utterance. So for example, how this showed up for me was instead of saying New York, I would say Unork. Did I just do that again? Instead of saying New York, I said Unork. Instead of saying Lawrence of Arabia, it was Clarence of Columbia. Instead of saying elbows, I would say bozos. And there were more and more and more examples, actually to this day. And yes, I make people laugh, but honestly, I would continue to be more and more embarrassed the more that I kept messing up. I spent sessions with therapists and tutors trying to overcome the challenges I had. It wasn't that my family didn't think that I was smart or that I couldn't say it. It was just, in their opinion, in my parents' opinion, the more resources that they could give me, the better I would be able to find my smart, to feel more confident. You see, I was born a lefty, but unbeknownst to my parents, was made to switch in second grade to a righty, to fit in better with the classroom furniture, to be honest. See, in those times, the desks were made for right-handers, and scissors, everything was based on being right-handed. So everything I did at home, like eating and some sports and ultimately makeup, I did with my left hand and still do. But in school, it was right all the way. So not only was I kind of already mixing up words, mismalapropping, but I was beginning to give way to a very budding, at the time undiagnosed, finally diagnosed to a perceptual learning disability. I mixed up words, and you can imagine at that point, at 7 years old, being switched from a lefty to a righty, to have to relearn how to hold a pencil, or to figure out how to put scissors, or how do you write? What does the paper look for? Still, I held my own. I was social, I was curious, I was an eager youngster, and despite my challenges, I managed to get through school with a strong B average. Many good friends, I had great hobbies, I sang, and of course, I had a really great boyfriend. However, I had really low self-academic esteem. My sisters, who appeared to easily maintain perfect A averages, seemed bigger than life to me. What I didn't expect is when I did go to college, that it would offer me anything more than a good time, a college degree, maybe some freedom. I didn't expect what was going to happen. Along the way, I met Amelia. She would serve as this model, this beacon of hope, this tension release, this quasi-therapist, if you will, and she actually still is. Books are behind me. Amelia is this classic children's book series. If you hadn't heard of it, it's authored by a woman by the name of Peggy Parrish and became my refuge. I found this sense of relief in the stories of Amelia, this maid who took her assignments literally. For example, when Amelia would be asked to help in the kitchen on Thanksgiving Day and dress a turkey, she did just that. She sewed a dress, put the dress on the raw turkey, and served it, thinking she had successfully executed her duty. Oh, or when her employers came home to see a living room covered in powder, to find out that what she thought was being asked of her when being asked to dust the living room meant actually throwing dust all over the furniture in the living room. The best part, and here's where I'm going to put a little bit of strengths in, is that although her employers deemed her their incompetent maid, incompetent, couldn't do any of the tasks in cleaning the house that they needed her to do, each story ended with this brilliant, competent, confident Amelia as she walked in, story after story, book after book, problem after problem, with an incredible pastry that she baked. Because in fact, she was a brilliant baker. And each story, each funny story of the things she misunderstood was this brilliant space of redemption that endeared her, that people appreciated about her, that allowed her to come back more and more and more. And certainly in those redemptive moments, they continued to give hope to me, to this little girl with a learning disability, that somewhere I was going to find my bake. I was going to find my redeeming gift, and it would outweigh any deficiency, and it would prove to everybody else that I was more than a malapropism. And it did. Just for a minute, if you want to put into the chat, was there an Amelia Bedelia? Is there a story? Is there something? Is there a book we should all go to? Something about you. You're Amelia, you're a Bedelia, you're Amelia Bedelia. Feel free to put it in the chat, and I'd like to capture it, and we'll share it after, because I'm guessing we've all had Amelia Bedelias that have been a really important tenant in our lives. Nancy Drew, you bet. Giving Tree. Harriet the Spy, loving it. Years later, I actually studied Amelia and some of the work that I've been doing in research and writing in terms of coaching and leading in what is becoming a more acceptable neurodiverse universe. I found that there was so much more than even I realized in terms of the works of Peggy, and that in fact, it was to talk about how many people may learn and present differently than what we would think of as normal. And yet each person's ability to find their gift, to find their moment, being able to set forth and see how you can contribute and be appreciated makes all the difference. And it continues to do. And again, as I have moved through my professional life, one of the things that I continue to realize is that the more I appreciate my own gift, the more I'm able to appreciate others. For the contract, the winner of that sophomore year that I was supposed to now transfer to, get ready to transfer to another college, I completed my applications. I got accepted to that better school as a junior. But when the time came for me to move schools, there was a new variable in the equation. The variable was that something happened at state. During my 2 years, I changed. I fell in love with learning. It continues to this day, but something was ignited in me that I could get past what I couldn't do, and I fell in love with it. I took on leadership roles in student government. I was awarded a coveted internship that's given to top students. I mean, I was thriving. And both my parents were so proud that my father actually said to me, you know what? No contract. My mother said, no contract. My dad said, I always thought it was more important to be a small fish in a big pond, but you've proven that a big fish in a littler pond can be equally important. It's the fish to the pond ratio that's important. Where do you fit in? from that, I was released not just from the contract, I was released from the expectation that I had to be or look or learn like somebody else. It was about me. Upon graduation, I wanted to continue my education and go right into a master's program in psychology. I mean, my parents supported my decision to move forward. I was going to be this awesome therapist. The only thing is that it felt, and at their request, and thank you, Mom, that I needed to gain some more professional experience outside of having just been in the student role. And so they encouraged me to enroll in some sort of corporate structured training program for at least 2 years. It either confirmed my career decision to go into therapy and become a therapist, or it may create some other access or avenue for me to go. Whatever, it would be a win-win situation. So I did it. At the time, I was really, really excited. I mean, here's the deal. 2 years of any kind of bank training, and then I was going to go back and become a psychologist, a therapist, only now I would go back and I would be so learned. Day 1 of training, I walked in to a bank training program. A matter of fact, it was called the Officer Candidate Program. I was so excited. I walked into that program wearing a new pantsuit, feeling a little nervous, a little smaller than normal, eager, and within minutes, I was identified as the first and only external candidate in the program. Everyone else in my class of 25 people had been internally promoted from within the bank. Again, I was different. I sat next to Mark, clearly a leader amongst his superiors, teacher's pet, really funny, nice, quickly my ally. The training was thorough. It was an overview of the bank's services, its products, compliance, and governance and operations. As I was leaving, Debbie, my instructor, who was small, she must have been about 5 feet, 5'1", power woman, came up to me and said, Eileen, listen, come back tomorrow, dressed more professionally. Pull your hair back, wear lipstick. We don't wear pants here, and women don't wear pants. I'm assuming men did, but women don't wear pants. And if you could, limit the number of questions you're asking. This isn't a college class. Most everybody else in the class knows the answer. Eileen, this is a place of business. Act that way. I went home. I was completely deflated. I was so embarrassed. I was ashamed. I was self-conscious. Everything I had just gotten out of all my college experience just went right down. I didn't know what to do. Here's what I did. I went home and I got ready. And on day 2, I came in. I put my hair up. I put some more lipstick on. Skirt, yes. Thank you, Mom. Check, perfect. Pad of paper so I could ask questions to Mark after class. Ready, in my hand. I was ready. We got out early that day with Debbie giving us the instruction to go survey local banks of our competition and come back with a collage of marketing materials to present while I was off. No comment about my looks. I did it. I went to 5 financial institutions, gathered the collateral, and then I went to the art store to buy my collage making supplies. I got a poster board, I got glue, I got scissors, of course, with ragged edges, if you were thinking, markers, and so on. And the next day I came in after having made all of this beautiful collage for hours with my lipstick, my dress, my hair, everything in order, and my beautiful collage whiteboard. I was beaming. As I looked around the room, however, looking for Mark, I noticed that I was the only one holding the board. All the other students were holding these manila folders. Mark hurried up to me and asked, hey, what do you got there? I said, I have my collage of the competition's materials. And his eyes grew softer passionate. And he said to me as he pulled out his manila folder out of his satchel, Eileen, when Debbie said collage, she didn't actually mean literally a collage. What she meant is bring the materials in a folder, bring a number of different materials, and then present them. Amelia. I was Amelia. I thought it was literal. I thought it was a collage. Like, what else could a collage mean? I didn't know. I had no other frame. So I took the collage and my head was down. In comes Debbie, laser focusing on the board. What is that, Eileen? She asked. My collage. This story can go one of two ways. This is the way it went. She instructed me to come up to the front of the room. She had me hold my collage, and then she asked me to leave. But not before telling me that I clearly wasn't meant to be in this program, that I wasn't taking it seriously, and that this company and this program wasn't in the business of teaching kindergartners or having kindergartners be their officers, that this wasn't an arts and craft project, that there wasn't a need for jagged edges like I had done on my board. She said, we're in the business of business, and you're not. I went home. Can you imagine this time going home? Forget the lipstick. I went home and tattled really to my parents, who offered just the right amount of empathy and sort of this pragmatic next steps options to consider. And I thought about it. And I sort of knew that there was sort of these options, right? I could quit and go find another training program and stay on my path to go be the psychologist that I wanted to be in a couple of years. I could go back with a manila folder, go back and get a bunch of materials, because at this point they had all been ripped up, and grovel for a second chance. Or I could get the manila folder, put the collateral in it, and bring the board, in hopes that I would be seen as responsive and compliant by following the rules as they were meant to be followed, not the rules that I had interpreted them to be. And that I could then sort of show this next level of creativity, of, in my mind, resourcefulness, and even more in my mind at that point to prove worthiness. So on day 4, hair, lipstick, dress suit, and folder in my hand, I walked in and showed Debbie that I had the folder. I also had the board. I don't know what happened the evening before I walked into day 4, but Debbie changed. She allowed me to present both. She allowed me to show the folder first, follow the rules, ticket to play, and then allowed me to show the board. I can only assume that Mark had something to do with this. But from that moment on, Debbie was different with me. And by the way, I was different with her too. I was a bit more confident. I wasn't hurt. I took what she said to me, whether right or wrong, with a sense of she's trying to help me be the best of me. I was willing to adapt, but so was she. Immediately after training, I was the first candidate to be offered a corporate title position, Assistant Vice President of Marketing. One of the few women who was at that age getting a titled position. What I learned from that experience that's been so helpful for me is that if I want to change or challenge something, I have to follow the rules first. This is my process, because if I don't, I'll always be worried that somebody will think I'm only not doing it because I can't do it, not because there's a different creative way. I didn't not do the manila folder because I didn't know how. I didn't do the board because that's the only thing I could do. I did the board because that's what I thought I was being asked to do. So clarifying what I'm being asked to do, understanding if I'm the best one to do it, being able to think about what are other ways and presenting them in a different way really creates a space for me to be able to be me as part of the I. Be my I as part of the me. Let me come back to this. If I am not for myself, who will be for me? There's this interpretation that identifies two distinct selves, the I and the me. The I is the deepest self. It's our personalized facet of who we ultimately think is the very best of who we can be, the best. While in contrast, the me self is the persona. It's what we develop over life. It's what we've been pruned to become. The elements of the me originate from others, from society, from that which is inside of the I. The I is that authentic. It's the uniqueness. What Hillel teaches us is that if we do not reveal that I, part of ourself that is unique, then who are we? What value is there if it's just me, the persona that operates in the world? It becomes a shell. I become a shell. Without the I to have come back and submitted the manila folder, I would have only been in my me, in my shell. But to present both presented a more complete I and me. If I am not for myself, who will be for me, I have to be for me. If I'm only for myself, then what am I? As for Mark, he and I became and remained really dear friends and colleagues, and worked together at two banks. We're there for each other for all of our life cycle events, including his last. I held his hand as he passed quietly from AIDS in 1999. I know he knew how much he meant to me and the importance he played in my balancing, in the balancing of the I and the me. I know he loved his Amelia, that he appreciated me, and I him. By the age of 25, I took my first professional leadership job as a branch manager at Wells Fargo. Over the course of the next 25 years, I held a number of different leadership roles, and I was really fortunate to be exposed to some incredible wisdom carriers in the forms of authors and gurus and managers and leaders and educators that just created such opportunities for me to challenge myself, to encourage myself to develop my own leadership point of view. I grappled with what makes a great leader. And quite honestly, I had some incredible examples of great leadership, of great beingship, and I had some great examples of what not to be. But I surrounded myself with thinkers, and I attended and training programs and kept challenging and learning and becoming certified in different kinds of tools just to figure out what was the palette that I needed in order to be able to both contribute and to receive in the work, whatever I was going to do. Strengths and diamonds became more and more important. When I moved from leading a very large regional business banking group at Wells to leading the national learning and sales development team, I was introduced to the Gallup organization of Marcus Buckingham. It was there that I really understood the concept of strengths. Gallup had just started laying this foundation around strengths and employee engagement. It was the idea that spending more time dissecting what you do great, what you feel energized by doing, makes so much more sense than spending all your time to fix something that weakens you or that you're not energized around. I mean, every sports person we know has already figured this out. The goalie of a soccer team doesn't spend a lot of time on practicing how to be a midfielder. They practice how to be the very best goalie. They spend time going over and over again what they did well. If you have ever taken a lesson in any kind of sports, if you have taken a tennis lesson or a golf lesson, the first thing that coach says to you when you've hit a great ball is, did you feel that? Did you feel what it felt like? Did it energize? Did you feel it? Much more than they say, did you feel that? Here's what you did. So much more. That's what strengths did for me and has done for me. As a matter of fact, weaknesses became redefined for me as something that just gets in the way of you being able to show out your strengths. I mean, this was liberating for me. How empowering for a leader, for a person to be able to continue to look through a strengths lens. And I imagine I would focus much more on what was strong about the board and that situation in the moment had I already been sort of toned in this mindset. I mean, when I came home that day, when I think about what may have been the reason that Debbie had changed her approach, it may just be that something inside her, as she was rethinking about it, thought to herself, it might be worth it for me to understand a different perspective. By the way, that might just be my hallucination and how I've needed to rewrite that story, but it totally works for me. Within 2 years of meeting Marcus, I met a gentleman by the name of Peter Kestenbaum, this incredible Hungarian philosopher. And he is the one that created the diamond, the Kestenbaum leadership diamond. I mean, the diamond was this incredible thing, not just because everyone knows I love diamonds, but of course, the diamond offered me this frame of looking at things, this frame of being able to say, wait a minute, regardless of how the 4 points are oriented, there are tensions that we need between orientations. There are tensions. So think about this. If you think about a diamond, and you think about the 4 steps of, or the 4 pieces of a diamond, let me just throw this up really quickly. Do you see that? Everyone can see that? Thumb up?
Yes.
Thumb down, thumb to the side? Great. When you think about the diamond, Kestenbaum has 4 corners of the diamond, 4 points. Reality, vision, courage, and ethics. And the tension, the polarity between these points create a space of potential extraordinary being, results, greatness. When you think of tension, I think of the ability to be able to understand where it is that I need to be either leaning into or leaning away from, what may be holding me back from moving forward, whether it's a decision or an action, or what may be, in fact, informing me of something that I should be really paying attention to. What could accelerate me? So if you think of ethics, think of it as being sort of this being of service, being of earning, being of feeling that you are in sync with your values, what you know to be important. When you think about vision, you think about what is possible. What am I looking forward? What is this? What is in front of me? What can I see? What's possible? When I think of reality, I think of what are the facts? What's the business of the business? What do I need to know in order for me to either move forward, make a decision, be in space? And then courage is around, how do I act in this way of responsibility, in this way of being? What is it that I can do? What I love about the diamond is that if you think about these 4 points and that they don't necessarily matter where the points sit, but in fact, it is about the tension. Think about this. If you had reality on one side and vision on the other, then in fact, you'd almost be looking at a gap analysis. Where are you now? Where is it that you want to go? And how are you going to get there is the ethic and courage. So it's a gap analysis with heart. The point is, it is understanding your capacity and finding intention around how and what you're going to do. And again, imagine if you are part of a bigger structure, a container that may be a team or a family, understanding and getting alignment around what is our individual and group reality. What's really happening here? Are we aligned with where it is that we're wanting to go, and whatever that may be? And do we have in our approach an understanding around what do we do if we disagree? What do we do to hold each other accountable? And how are we being true to ourselves? If in fact reality and ethics would be across from one another, it could look like our company needs to downsize. The reality is we have expense issues. We need to cut our expenses. How we're going to make the decision on how to do that is the pull between reality and ethic. I'd like to play a little bit with an exercise, because what I'd like to show you is that Kestenbaum also created this incredible human structure of the diamond. Let me share really quickly. So the idea is that when you're thinking about vision, your head is up, your arms are up, and you're looking up and you're thinking, what's possible? And when you're thinking about reality, your feet are on the ground, tierra firma, you're thinking about, you have a truth and a structure and a way and a firmness. And when you're thinking about ethics, you're thinking about, what is it that I feel here in my heart, in my soul? And in courage, it's around your stomach. What's happening in here? Do I feel butterflies? Am I nervous? Am I excited? And in the concept of our body, one head, one body, one heart, one soul, varying mindsets, varying activities that we do with the parts of our body, but knowing that it is in a container of me, myself, I. So I'm going to take about 5 minutes and ask that we do an exercise together. So if you will, and you can either turn off your screen or keep your screen on, but this is going to be a bit of an exercise for us to go through together. You ready? Give me any sign that you're ready. All right, here we go. Hold on, time out. I want to be able to see you, and I want to be able to read you the exercise. So I'm going to do it in a minute. All right, ready? Okay. Take a minute. Actually, take 30 seconds. And choose a topic or a decision or an action that you need to take that is present for you right now. Everybody's going to jump up and go to the bathroom, but just take a minute and choose a topic or a decision or an action that you need to take that is present for you right now. Okay. What I want you to do is to take a few deep breaths. And as you're taking these breaths, I want you to be thinking about that topic, that decision, or that action that you're wanting to take. And now begin by either standing up or in your chair. Put your feet flat against the ground. Plant them firmly on the ground. Feel your toes pressing down. And now I want you to give a stomp or two. One foot, then the other foot. Really stomp. Feel how hard that ground is. Feel it. Feel the firmness of it. Feel the truth of it. You are standing in your reality orientation. This is the truth. This is the fact. You're standing and knowing what is real, just the facts, just the firmness of the ground. Now, as you have your feet staying on the ground, think now about that topic or decision again. Feel it for a minute. Feel it through your legs to your feet on the ground. And now I want you to look up, really look up. Raise your arms and reach to the sky and imagine what is possible. Feet on the ground, head up, look up. What do you see? What do you not see? When you think about that decision or the action, what is possible? That, of course, is your vision orientation. Now I want you to stretch. Keep your feet on the ground, stretch up so you actually feel a stretch. And that, my friends, is the polarity. That's the tension. Feel it. Ah. And now put your arms down. And I want you to think about your breathing. Are you breathing fast? Is your heart beating? Is it beating fast? Short breaths, long breaths, difficult breaths, effortless breaths. Think about that topic. Think about that decision. Hear your heart beating. These are cues and clues to your ethics orientation. It's there. Is there something holding you back? Is there something that doesn't feel right? Is there something that you're just feeling energized? There are tingles. Is there something that needs to be done? Is there something that's allowing you to breathe more easily? And finally, feel your gut. Are you hungry? Are you energized? Do you feel butterflies? What do you know to be true? What in your gut do you know is going to allow or disallow you, is going to hold you back or move you forward, accelerate or debilitate? Knowing it and choosing to do whatever you may do with it, that is your courage. That's your courage orientation. Okay, shake it off. Open your eyes. Come back to the screen. Take a second or 2 or 10 or 15 or 30. And just kind of hold for yourself. You can put it in chat. You can put it in yourself. You don't have to write anything down. You can just hold it. But what did your legs and feet tell you? And throughout today, notice when you feel that your feet are grounded. And notice when they're shaking or they're not. When you're looking for that grounding, for that truth, notice it about yourself. What are you thinking about? What needs your attention? What do you need more fact about? What other information do you need? And when you looked up, was there room for imagination? Could you see it? Could you get through? When you're thinking today and you put your hand under your face and you're just kind of imagining, Lisa, you may be coming up with a poem, a probe. We may just be thinking about, heck, what we're having later, what we're doing later. But when you're in that mode, that's when you're visioning. What are you thinking about? How can you hold that so that you and that has a space? You can call on your vision orientation when needed. You can understand if your vision orientation, when you're imagining possibility, do your feet raise from the ground? Do you need a partner to help tether you? Do you need someone to release you from a shackle? What do you need? And do you have the courage to go for it? What will it take? What's holding you back? When you're sitting there and you're rubbing your stomach, whether you're excited or hungry or yum yum or dum dum, whatever it may be, what is it that you're wanting to do? What's holding you back? What do we need? And finally, when you're swallowing a little bit more intentionally, difficultly, when you feel your heart beating, whether it's soaring with love and emotion, whether it feels tight, when you're breathing in beauty, when you're breathing out fear, what is it about this topic or this action that you're needing, that you need to be informed about? What's happening with you? It is the intentionality of understanding and knowing we are all 4 orientations always. We are brilliant together. Together as a group, together in our own bodies, we are brilliant together. The diamond and strengths provide such a great fertile landscape for individuals and people and ourselves and organizations to be whole, to figure out how we become such a stronger team. What is needed? I've had so many people say to me, I'm really good at this, but I'm not good at that. Okay, well, what does that mean? It feels good or I'm tired when I do this. Okay, what does that mean? And let's figure out paths forward. What can we imagine? What can we sketch? Marianne Williamson touches on this. She says, when she wrote The Deepest Fear, if you haven't read the entire poem, it's so wonderful, but she writes, we were born to make manifest the glory that is within us, not just in some of us. It's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, as we let our diamond's brilliance shine, we unconsciously give people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fears, as we find our courage, our presence automatically liberates others. So if not now, when? I don't know if you've ever had words that have completely shaken everything, but the moments I heard the words, you have cancer, my life changed. The me's, the myselfs, the I's, the dreams, the wisdoms, the diamonds, the logic, everything I knew to be true, they were all dimmed by the holy shit, what now strobe light. It was unbelievable. And my cancer exposed itself to me, almost like it wanted to get caught. It attacked me in everything I believed in. It attacked me in my soul, in my heart, in my vision. I mean, the first 6 months, I had this clear agenda of how to treat this terrible eye cancer that I ultimately had to have treated as CNS cancer, as central nervous cancer, system cancer, because the chance that I would live if I didn't was less than 2%. And even when I did, it still didn't change the percentage of so many others. But what I knew in my heart is that if I could hold on and allow the people around me to shine their brilliance on me, if I could trust in a way I've never trusted before, whether it was to the medical teams or to my family and to my friends, not just that they would be taking care of me, but in fact, that they would be taking care of each other. I believed in the goodness and the greatness of others. I believed in those beautiful gifts. I believe currently that together, diamonds shine more brightly. The Facebook post I wrote 3 years after my stem cell read, 3 years ago, March 8th, 2015, I wasn't sure if I'd ever wake up in, and yet I did, be it one stem cell at a time. 2 years ago, I woke up and thought I'm going to be okay, but my bald head kept blocking my view. 1 year ago, I woke up with a head of hair back, fear in my heart though, at this gnawing in my gut that I was on borrowed time. And yet I felt this hope. When I woke up today in Santa Barbara, I'm here because of a gift certificate I bought at a charity event for an organization that brought me the doctor who'd ultimately inject me with chances to wake up again. Today I wake up, I take a breath, I sip of water, and I take a moment to look around internally and externally. What is my reality in this new cancer fighter body? What is my vision and intention for this year? Can I summon the courage to quell my constant fear that my cancer is looking for me? So I don't know if my cancer ever chose to swipe me left or right, or whether, it's left me for good, whether it's thinking about a second date or it intends to marry me. But what I do know is that I'm in relationship with it. It's both a motivator and an inhibitor. It dances around with promises of freedoms and threats of shackle. It reminds me of the blessings and fleeting moments in life and the permanence of death. I've chosen to accept the duality of its polarity in my life, and I have found a sense of purpose and of calm. Every day feels like a gift. I wrote that 5 years ago. I celebrated my 8-year anniversary from my cell last week. And I celebrate my 61st birthday this week. I'm a grandmother, I'm a mother, I'm a daughter, I'm a sister, I'm a friend, I'm a colleague, I'm a thought leader. The me, myself, and I, we're ready, willing to serve. I care so much about giving back. I care about how I'm received. I care about being the best receiver I can be. There's so much more to my story besides what I'm sharing. But what I can tell you for truth is that strengths, aphorisms, diamonds, and my dear, dear Amelia have been blessings in my life, as are many of the people, including my son and my mother and my best friend who are on the phone today. Thank you so much for letting me share my story. Please feel free, if there's anything you want to pop in or connect with me, Eileen Fracchia at elcaminogroup.com, or any other way. I'm here to be of service to you, and I thank you so much for being of service to me.